This is a question Kentucky Senator Rand Paul has never gotten before. How many members in Imagine Dragon, Senator? Any idea?
Got to be 4. That's my guess.
At least 4. They're very good at singing.
All right, we were thinking when we asked you to come on, maybe we'll talk to you about health care. Is this thing really going to happen by the end of the week?
You know, I still sense that we're at impasse, and I said that yesterday at lunch with our Republican caucus, and everybody kind of laughed because, yeah, there's still quite a bit of disagreement. And there's basically 2 factions. There are conservatives like myself who don't want new federal programs. We want to repeal Obamacare. And then there's the moderates who kind of want to keep some of Obamacare, and they're not too opposed to new federal government programs. So what I've come up with, and I talked to the president yesterday about this, is what about dividing the bill in 2? Do the repeal, which no Democrat will vote for, repeal the taxes, repeal the regulations, and do a fix to Medicaid that helps to pay for everything, reform Medicaid. No Democrats will vote for anything good like that. But Democrats will always vote for spending.
Sure. And
so the big government Republicans that want more spending take the spending and put it in a bill that the Democrats will vote for. There's about 20 different bills Democrats vote for every year. Stick it on one of those bills, and now you have 2 bills. Boom, you get it done in 5 minutes. And the president seemed open and interested in the idea.
Well, what about Mitch McConnell? We heard that he wasn't too happy that the deadline of tomorrow broke out, but he's also got 9 Senate Republicans who are opposing the bill. And then you've got the public. A brand new Suffolk University poll says only 12% support the plan as we know it, so maybe your plan would be a winner.
Well, see, the typical way in Washington that they fix things is they give everybody money, and that's what I think is going to happen now. They have $200 billion that's supposedly extra money, so they'll pass that around and see if they can get enough votes. But there's several of us that are fiscal conservatives that want smaller government, repeal of Obamacare, and the question is, are they going to try to get conservatives on the bill? If they don't, and we're still at impasse, then what I would say is, why don't we split the bills in 2, let conservatives have a clean repeal or a cleaner repeal, and then let the moderates vote with the Democrats on some big spending bill.
So, Senator, do you think that's what the president was referring to when he said there's a bit of a surprise that could be coming as early as Friday?
You know, I don't know. But I do know that it is my belief the president is open. I've had great conversations with him. I do believe that I connect with him. And I feel like we really are on the same side when I talk to him. And I don't always get that feeling when I'm working within the Senate.
Senator, how many people of the 10 that we know of that object to this are actually working towards getting a yes? And how many are just sitting waiting to be impressed?
Well, you know, I think half of them want more money and half of them want less money. That's why it doesn't work to have one bill, because every time you stuff more money in it for the moderates, it offends the conservatives.
Sure.
So if you separate the bills, you can keep stuffing things till the end of time, till the printing machine runs out of money. You can stuff money in some bill the Democrats like, and then probably you get the same result. But you'll get conservatives to vote for a cleaner repeal, but you just won't get us if you stuff a bunch of money in this one.
Senator, what's your message to the constituents that are watching, that are furious because they want this thing passed? Many people who voted for President Trump, they voted for him for repealing and replacing, and it's not happening. And many people think that it's because of the Senate, it's because of the House, that nothing's getting done. And you're one of those 10 that is not in favor of this bill that's currently in the Senate. So what do you say to your constituents?
Well, you know, it's probably not been a bigger defender of the president on the Hill than myself. I voted for him. I supported him. I still support him. I also promised to repeal Obamacare, and I just can't vote for a bill that keeps it. The bill as it stands currently keeps Obamacare. My fear is that with the money they're actually working on trying to keep more Obamacare and add more federal spending. You know, here's the worst thing that I see in the bill, one of the worst things. There's something they call a stabilization fund, $130 billion.
Slush fund.
Well, yeah, we're $500 billion in the hole this year, and they have a $130 billion fund, and they say, oh, we'll lower insurance rates by subsidizing them. It's like, look, I've got an old car. I want a new car. Could you have a new car stabilization fund? I pay high rent in D.C. for my apartment. Could you have a rent stabilization fund? You could lower any price if you thought there was no limit to the taxpayer, just to dump money to lower price. That's not the Republican way. It's not conservative, and it's not capitalism.
Sure. Senator, a moment ago you said you and the president seem to be on the same page. It sounded like you were taking a shot at the Republican leadership in the Senate. Them not so much. What's going on behind closed doors?
I think that the president is a leader, and I think he has the ability to lead the way on this. And like I say, I think we're on the same page on a lot of this. I think if he leads the way and he tells them, guys, we're going to do 2 bills. One's going to be more repeal, and one's going to be more of the federal programs. And moderates will get to vote for the second one. Conservatives and moderates vote for the first one. I don't know. I think he could. I think he could do it. I think he has the force of personality and the bully pulpit of the presidency to do it.
But Senator, there's a compromise in this, and on the big picture, I know you can drill down on it because you lived it, because you grew up in the medical profession. You do get $321 billion worth of savings from the deficit and more taxes cut. Those are conservative principles. If you increase Medicaid for moderates and you get your conservative cuts, isn't that compromise?
Yeah. There's kind of a funny math going on here. When they say they're saving $300 billion, it's off a baseline that's going like this. So spending goes like this, and when you pass it, you save $300 billion, it still goes like this, but you still have a $500 billion deficit. So it's not really fiscally conservative. In fact, we said we were for repeal of the whole thing. We're leaving that $300 billion is what we're leaving of Obamacare.
All right, let's talk about what's happening over at CNN. They had to retract that story about Anthony Scaramucci being connected, allegedly, they said, being connected to a Russian bank. And he's saying that's not true. I have an attorney. I'm going to go after you guys. I stand behind my record and my reputation. So now they're covering the Russia story in a different way. And they sent out an email that the press got their hands on of how they're changing how they're reporting on Russia. We had Anthony Scaramucci, the first time he's been on camera since all this happened, this morning on our show, and we'll get your reaction. But listen to this soundbite.
I had a couple of conversations with senior staff at CNN. I made it very clear to them that the story was not accurate and that it was a defamatory story. I reminded them about my legal background. I think it's a bunch of nonsense. I worked on the campaign. I worked on the transition. I think it's a bunch of nonsense. I'd like it to stop. It certainly was nonsense related to me. It's probably nonsense related to others. What I do think they have to do now is have more checks and balances in the system. They have to be more prudent about what they're saying about people, because I think you're going to leave your own reputation behind. You're going to potentially damage the reputation of the people that you're talking about. But once you start to lose your integrity and your reputation as a news organization, people start to get tone deaf.
So, Senator, we've heard all this in the mainstream media about collusion in Russia, and there's no there. So what is your reaction to the way the media, mainstream media, is handling all of this? Is it backfiring on them and on the Democrats?
I've said since the very beginning, I think the whole Russia thing about Trump and Russia is a witch hunt. They're still depressed that they lost the election. It's sour grapes, and they're looking at things like, oh, so-and-so once upon the time met the Russian ambassador. Most senators in Washington have met the Russian ambassador and a dozen other ambassadors or more. So, yeah, I think that it's always been sort of sour grapes, witch hunt. I don't think there's any there. We've been studying it for 6 months. Certainly, if they had some sort of really smoking gun, they would have shown it. Sure. And the fact that they're not. But what I hate about this is we'll investigate this thing for the whole presidency. Now, the whole first term, this is going to be investigated, and then finally they'll say, well, whoops, we didn't really have anything.
Well, you know why. They don't want him to get anything done.
Yeah, so it's kind of a misdirection campaign trying to keep us off track of things that we can do that's good for the country.
And those people who keep saying that the president does not understand health care, what's your reaction?
You know, I think he has a very keen insight into the political process. He has great instincts as to what would be good for business, what would be good for jobs. And so, no, I haven't seen that at all. When I've had meetings with him, and I've had lots of conversations in this last couple of months, I sense that it's a person who really does get exactly not only the intricacies of it, but gets sort of what would be good for America.
And when you play golf with him, just do yourself a favor. Don't let him win, okay? You don't want to beat the president.
See, unfortunately, it's not letting. He actually beats me fair and square. But,
he owns golf courses.
But I will tell you, we were on the first tee, and he said what was my handicap, and he offered to give me a stroke on each 9, and I said, no, Mr. President, I don't take any welfare.
All right, good job. You stand for something. All right, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Appreciate it.